welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 27. Today we have a very special guest. We have Missy Gannon, the recent winner of the Ledgestone Insurance Open and the 2021 Pro Tour Player of the Year. We're going to talk to Missy all about that win at Ledgestone and the expectations she has for the rest of the season, including the World Championships, which are quickly approaching. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. All right, we welcome onto the show now our guest for this week. We have the 2022 Ledgestone Insurance Open champion and the 2021 Pro Tour Player of the Year, Missy Gannon. Thank you so much for joining the show, Missy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I want to hop into that win and just talk about it, but kind of starting from the beginning of the season, you had a solid start to the season. You picked up a Silver Series win, but going into the season, what kind of expectations had you set for yourself after having that hot finish to the end of last season?
I guess I didn't really set them for myself. I just knew that they were going to be there. Um,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
yeah, it was nerve-wracking, honestly, coming off of the off season. I enjoyed the off season and I didn't really put a lot of pressure on myself. I practiced when I could, but I decided to take a good amount of time off as well.
Yeah.
Uh, And so, yeah, I think probably like at Las Vegas Challenge, it was like, okay, not only is everybody sort of feeling like a little rusty or like nervous, but I also had all of these other things that I was, sort of thinking about and how am I going to start the year? Is it going to be like I left off, started off where I left off or what? So, yeah, there was way more pressure than usual coming into this season.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly makes sense, winning that award, signing the new contract extension. There's obviously, you can see it all the way across the tour. There are a lot of players who get those new expectations and certainly underperform. That really hasn't been the case with you at all. But regardless of your recent win, going back before Ledgestone, would you have said that you were meeting your expectations at that point in the season, or did you feel like you were underperforming?
Um, no, yeah, no, I felt pretty good about it actually. I had I think I had at least three podium finishes before
Hmm.
Ledgestone, um, which I was very stoked about. And then other than that, I think yeah, D-Glow was probably only the third event that I had finished outside of the top 10. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, out of whatever we're at, like 15, 16 events, to only finish outside the top 10 three times, I felt like that was, a pretty nice way to feel consistent,
Hmm.
and with some, you know, less than stellar rounds that I had throughout all of those events. So yeah, I felt good. I could tell that I was consistent. I always, you know, felt like I either had a really solid final round to kind of propel me back into that top 10 or, whatever it was, or just had, three pretty good rounds that just sort of kept me within that top 10. But yeah, I did start feeling like a little bit of like a second place curse
Yeah.
after Idlewild. I was like, all right, I got second again, even though I, shredded the last round. But yeah, no, I was up until, Ledgestone, I was pretty proud already. So this is sort of just like a nice little weight off my shoulders kind of feeling.
Yeah, well, definitely getting that, as you mentioned, things were kind of bubbling up to that win with all the second places and the top fives and so on, because you were having a very consistent season and you still are. So headed into the event, going into the week at Ledgestone, obviously, like you'd mentioned, you had all the close finishes, but hadn't gotten that huge win yet during the year. As you're going into the event, did you feel like you were going to have a good week? Were you excited for that event?
Yeah, I've always been excited to play Ledgestone. It actually was, I went on tour in like June of 2018, and it was the first event that I had made a lead card.
Okay.
Uh, on back then. So, I had very low expectations when I came on tour for the first, 6 months and to have made lead card. And yes, we did play Sunset, which is relatively the same. And then we played a different layout of Northwoods. But at that point, and that always felt like an event that I could win. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I ended up. I think I've played pretty well there. Otherwise, I think I took ninth place that first year after getting on that lead card, and um, then yeah, I think what the whole thing about Ledgestone for me is that it really lets players show both sides of their game.
Hmm.
And I think that it's always been an event that I felt like if you win this event, you are definitely considered one of the best in the world, because you not only have to show that you're a really solid technical player, but you also have to battle, the winds and the really scoreable open course at Sunset Hills. So I think it really lets every player kind of show a lot of different aspects of their game. And yeah, I'm just really excited that Ledgestone is finally one that I can call mine.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I agree. I think it's one of the more balanced events. I like that disc golf uses multiple courses for tournaments. I think that's unique to the sport, and I like when they take advantage of that fact and add in a variety. Because you're right, it does feel like having Ledgestone as one of your wins for your career just feels
Hmm.
like extra special because it is a tough event to win, and like you mentioned, you have to be able to play a lot of different types of disc golf. Um,
Hmm.
so as you were kind of navigating both those courses during the event, what parts of your game did you feel like were really clicking that you found were the biggest keys to your success out there?
Definitely my drives. Typically, it's the putting that I find myself at the top, but I think it was after I think the second round, I had an
Yeah,
interview afterwards, and Brian had let me know that I was like the top. I was like number one in tee to green or something like that, and
yeah,
that's just something that like I never get. Like I
yeah,
feel like I'm not one of those people. I'm sort of always, trying to really maximize that distance, and I just can't usually get there. But a lot of these holes out here are, scoreable, especially at sunset, I suppose. But yeah, so my drives were just on point, especially at Northwoods. You just have to be able to throw straight, and luckily for me, I'm starting to realize I might be one of the best straight throwing distance driver players.
yeah, yeah.
um, I throw my thrashers and I have very good control over them, and to be able to still throw far, but also really, really straight is something that I think is a huge advantage for me. So yeah, that was a really cool stat, and yeah, I think that's what was working the most.
Certainly, yeah. Your stats around the board were solid, but definitely fairway hits, OB rate,
Hmm.
and tee to green, strokes gained were huge for you. You mentioned that
Hmm.
Thrasher, and I actually wanted to ask you about that because you're obviously a very big spokesperson for the Thrasher. You love that disc. I feel like the Thrasher gets a decent amount of recognition, but not a lot of
Hmm.
players throw it as much as you do. When did you
Yeah.
first start throwing that mold, and what is it about it that has you reaching for it so often out of your bag?
I think when I first switched to Discraft, um, I just knew that the distance driver was the first thing that I had to find. So I think I spent the most time trying out distance
Hmm.
drivers in the Discraft lineup. The Hades had like kind of was just starting to come out, and but the Thrasher has always been there. And one person that I think inspired me to try the Thrasher was Val Jenkins. Um,
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I had never played with her when before I had switched to Discraft, so I didn't really know, why she was finding so much success with the Thrasher, but for some reason I just felt like her and I probably had very similar arm speeds. Um, and so I just gave it a try, and it felt really good in my hand. And it's just, I think, something that I just stuck with. It has the understability, but I think a lot of people think it's going to be way more understable than it actually is. And I've been able to find different plastics and different runs that really fit every single stability in my bag. I literally have five thrashers in my bag.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think I threw it off of, what did I count? I think I only didn't throw a thrasher off the tee at Northwoods like 3 times.
Wow.
uh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, 3 or 4, I can't remember. And then I think at Sunset, I'm pretty sure it was almost like 17 out of the 18 holes, barring any sort of like different wind. But I think I've still pretty much threw a thrasher off the tee every hole. So I just found, I don't know, just found the disc that felt really good and got enough different, variety in that mold that I've been able to kind of cover every single stability.
Yeah, well, I think that, having that mold minimalization and, if you're able to condense your bag down to as little molds as possible, I do think that's helpful, especially just for muscle memory and having that feel and consistency. It's crazy to hear like just how often you throw it. It really is.
Hmm.
I've certainly had drivers like that during times where it's like there just doesn't seem like another reason to reach for a different one, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a great
Hmm.
place to be in because I feel like I've played my best disc golf at times like that.
Hmm.
So where does this win, at Ledgestone being such an important win, where does this stack up in your career so far? Obviously, you had some big ones last year, so I would understand if it probably takes like third.
Yeah, great. I don't. I was thinking about this last night, and I was like, God, like I've won so many of like the I suppose I've won like four, right? Four big ones, and
Yeah.
at now, and they all sort of are really big in their own way. Like it's been so hard to figure out why and where each one sort of ranks because yes, the Pro Tour Championships has blown up to be this like huge event, and if you win it, your life is altered pretty significantly just because of the payout
Hmm.
and the media coverage and all of that. So like I but then Throw Pink is like on the iconic Winthrop course,
Yeah.
right alongside the USDGC, the most prestigious, men's major of all time. And then DMC at the, Des Moines Championships at the time was going to be the highest pro purse, of an Elite Series event at the time. So it's
Yeah.
like they all sort of, and it was my first win, so
Yeah.
that's gonna just be such a big thing for me personally. So gosh, they all rank really highly, and I would probably put it. I would probably, I don't know. They're all really really
It is a
big.
tough one. It is a tough one. And I can understand how it's difficult, especially with the wins that you've had. I mean, having a first win and then having throw pink is such a big deal, and the tour championship that's
Hmm.
certainly tough. Um, but one thing I wanted to mention is so last year, from August onward, your average finish was third place compared to the rest of the season. Prior to that, it was seventh. So there was quite a significant change there. This, of course, was topped off by back-to-back wins at Throw Pink and then the Tour
Hmm.
Championship. So with your win this year at Ledgestone, also towards the beginning of August, some people, myself including, are drawing comparisons to last year, thinking that this could be part of the season that you thrive in, that later part of the season. Do you think
Hmm.
there's any truth to that idea with regards to this particular stretch of the tour, or is it purely coincidental?
I'm curious about that myself, honestly. I don't really feel any differently. I pretty much have the same routine every single event. I, it's not like I'm superstitious, really. It's not like I like eat the same thing for breakfast or, whatever. I kind of just do what I've always done, and um, if there is any potential reason why I start to kind of pick up the pace at this point in the season, could just be the style of golf, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that we start getting a little bit more technical, little less open, disregarding Worlds coming up because that's pretty much entirely open. But yeah, it might just be the style of golf, and I'm an East Coaster.
Hmm.
We're in the Midwest now, but I start to kind of maybe get a little excited to be back in my like home side of the state
Right.
after being away for so long.
Right.
But yeah, I think maybe it's more just the style of golf that we start getting into playing.
Before we get into the rest of this interview, we have a quick word from our friends over at Aura. Do you guys know what the fastest growing crime in America is? It's identity theft, and there's a new one every 14 seconds. Listen, I've had this happen to me before. I had my PayPal account stolen once. A bunch of money got stolen. It was awful. This is not a fun crime to be a victim of. And that's why I'm excited to partner with today's sponsor, Aura. Aura is an identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, a password management, and antivirus software all combined into one easy-to-use app. You might have one of these services already, but if you don't have all the tools, it's like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. Imagine trying to log into your email account one day only to see that the password has changed hours ago, and then you start getting notifications of activity from your bank, credit cards, crypto accounts, etc. That's super scary and unfortunately a reality for far too many people. Thankfully, Aura monitors the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security numbers and sends alerts fast right to your phone and email. I did this. I signed up with Aura for the free trial, and they found my password in the dark web like twice, like immediately. So I was able to change those really quick. Definitely a good tool there. Or also gives you near real-time alerts on suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone was opening a loan or credit card in your name. Ora's VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted. You can protect your family and yourself from identity theft at aura.com/foundation disc golf. It's also linked below in the description. And if you sign up right now, Aura will give you 2 free weeks of a trial with our link in the description so you can see for yourself how many times Aura finds you or your family members' personal info on the dark web. And if you sign up, let us know in the comments below if your personal information has been compromised. You won't regret checking. Remember, it's aura.com/foundation disc golf. Let's go ahead and hop right back into the interview.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask about was so as a player who's consistently in the mix and almost always battling in the top 5, you're certainly a name that is always near the front of the leaderboard. How much has the depth and challenge or the depth and talent of the competition changed this year and then over the last 5 years?
Well, I think the stat speaks for itself. We've had 7 different winners this
Yeah.
year already on the pro tour. I think it's just specifically, and I think just tells us all there that a lot of the women out here are maybe starting to feel comfortable on tour. That's a big thing. I think that people
Yeah.
don't really realize is like it's not necessarily that the talent isn't there. It's that the tour life is such a hard thing to get used to. And I think once you start getting comfortable with that part, with just the, traveling and all of that, then you can really start to focus on the golf and the golf alone. Um, and so, yeah, maybe we're just starting to see some of that comfort, and people just now finally figured out the routine this year. And um, there's a lot of good, just talented people coming out, and I think they're realizing that this is actually a viable option to make money.
Hmm.
Um, and we just have more and more people coming out. So, yeah, compared to previous 5 years, yeah, there's just a lot more depth, and for us to have, consistently like 40 women in the FPO division, if not more. Um, I remember when we would have like 18, and
Hmm.
I didn't start playing on tour till, like I said, 2018, and even back then we only had like 18 to 25, max. So yeah,
Mm.
it's just really cool to see a lot more women out here and having the opportunity to um, showcase their skills. And like I said, I found myself on a lead card my first 6 months on tour, and we're just seeing a lot more of that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of making money, last season you broke the single season earnings record for the FPO, totaling $67,029 after taking home 30 grand in the tour championship. Your previous personal record came in the season prior when you won just over $11,000. So quite a jump.
Yeah.
How life changing was it having such a financially successful season, and how has touring life shifted in the past few years as FPO earning potential has risen?
Yeah, it was quite different. I was actually just speaking to somebody yesterday about like, how low on the like how low I got at, one point when I was playing I think it was after that first 6 months, and I decided to continue doing this in 2019. Um, I didn't know if I was going to make it back from Oregon. I didn't have enough
Yeah.
money to like put gas in
Yeah.
my gas tank. Like it was
Yeah.
hard out there, and I think that's what makes me even more sort of grateful for every little thing that comes to me. And I think it just makes me work even harder. But yeah, I think the fact that the Pro Tour is making such a great effort to bring, bring more money into the sport and find ways to make sure that the women are taken care of in terms of payout. And just having these massive pro purses now is just such an awesome thing to be a part of. And yeah, having that nice little bump at the end of the last season was, of course, like huge. But
Yeah.
having also just the great support from Discraft and I feeling just so comfortable on tour and having people believe in me and support me uh, is a huge thing, and such a contrast to when I first started touring. So yeah, it's awesome. It certainly makes things a lot easier and a lot more comfortable, and it doesn't feel like we're just meandering around the country and
Yeah.
like slumming it everywhere. We're
Certainly.
living okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. I've heard a lot of similar stories this year from different players who have said very similar things. Like at one point, I didn't know if I had enough gas to make it home, things like that. And it's cool that we've gotten to this era in disc golf where the same players who started their career in that kind of situation are now the same ones who are signing these big deals
Hmm.
and being able to live comfortably and play the sport that they've put all this time and effort to. So I'm glad that kind of transition in the sport has kept the same players along with it,
Hmm.
and that's been really cool. But looking at the FPO scene as a whole, what do you think? Things have obviously started shifting in the right direction, and the purses have gotten bigger, the tour is getting stronger. But what do you think the next steps are to taking the FPO division to the next level, competitively and commercially? What are kind of some of the trends that you like?
Yeah, I think that eventually we're almost going to have like a parallel tour for the women alone.
That was my next question,
Yeah,
so I'm glad
yeah.
you mentioned it.
Only because the Pro Tour is already doing a really great job of making sure that there are enough women, FPO spots available.
Yeah,
But there are only so many events that can really handle, two fields of over 100, and I think that we are really like quickly getting to the point where we might be pushing 100, solid
yeah,
FPO players coming out on tour, or wanting to play an event. And um, I think the next steps and what it seems like the Pro Tour is trying to do is to have a lot more Silver Series events to allow some of those up and coming FPO players to still kind of make their own tour without before they're able to maybe like qualify for the Elite Series events.
right.
It's sort of a way that yeah, you can sort of go up through the ranks and eventually become maybe a tour card holder. And I think that that's probably the first thing that's going to happen before a separate tour happens. But I certainly think that we're you know taking good steps in the direction to harbor a much larger FPO division.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the future is certainly bright, and I think that those are definitely excellent points. It's cool hearing from somebody within the FPO division about seeing that future of a separate tour because I've certainly discussed that with people before.
Hmm.
So after your win at Ledgestone, you've just jumped to third in the UDisc World Rankings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you've just jumped up pretty significantly.
Yeah.
You're now in very elite company. However, when FPO top players are mentioned, I think people are quick to name Paige, Kristen, and
Hmm.
Katrina. But hey, there you are right now, sitting in the top three. So to that point, do you feel like you've slipped under the radar a little bit? And if so, is that somewhere you like to play from?
Yeah, I think a lot of people sleep on me, and that's okay.
All right, yeah,
I don't mind it. Yeah, I'd rather be. in that position. Either way, honestly, either way, it doesn't bother me whether or not I've, have a target on my back or if I'm just sort of sneaking around underneath the radar.
Yeah.
I do think that people sleep on me. I do always wonder when I don't, it's not like I'm like, oh, they don't think about me, but it's like I always wonder when there are these little conversations. Uh, and sort of I feel like I'm left out of it, and I always wonder, I'm like, man, I've been like so consistent, and like people don't
Yeah.
really like see that or something. I don't know. It certainly feels like people don't necessarily think of me right away, and like I said, I don't mind that. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and keep showing why I should be in the conversation more.
Yeah, definitely. So, one event in particular that I wanted to talk to you about is the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship because I think it's a very polarizing event. You're obviously quite familiar with this event since you won it last
Hmm.
year. Myself and many others find it a very interesting event due to the fact that it's only an A tier.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's cool that the women have their own U.S. championship, and I think that's a great initiative.
Hmm.
And that event can certainly develop over time as well, but I can't help but observe that the Throw Pink at Winthrop always feels more like a major as a fan due to the history of the event and that venue. Is there a similar feeling among the FPO competitors, and what do you think Throw Pink should become in the future?
I mean, I can't really speak for too many other people, but I personally feel as though um, that Throw Pink was a bigger event than U.S. Women's was and is.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a lot of conversation about the future of the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships and what it should look like, and that it should be treated just like the USDGC if it's going to be basically called the same thing, where we don't, maybe not at Winthrop, but we're at one facility, we play one course, and we learn it well, and we come back every year, and we have to qualify for it. Um, I think that just comes with growth, and sort of getting the PDGA to kind of catch up
Hmm.
with everything. I don't know why it's still sort of treated as like this big, women's like jamboree, where we're all sort of just going wherever the wherever the event ends up going to, and
Yeah.
learning, 2 to 3 courses, and um, yeah, it's never quite felt like a USCGC equivalent, and I think that's pretty public. I mean, a lot of people
Hmm.
have kind of voiced their opinion on that. So yeah, when I won Throw Pink last year, everybody thought I won a major. Everybody thought that
Yeah.
I'm a major champion, and while that's
Right.
really cool, thanks for thinking that. It's not true, and
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that I, am something and have won something that isn't what they're thinking it is. But my sponsors felt as though it felt like a major victory, and treated me as such. And yeah, I think we should probably, if there is some sort of remedy, we should probably just make Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships the USCGC, USWDGC. It just makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense,
Hmm.
and it just feels like the Throw Pink event's sort of just like thrown in there now, like this
Right.
weird
Yeah.
qualifying
It's
event
very
as an
odd.
A tier. Yeah,
Yeah.
super
Very
weird.
odd.
So yeah, hopefully that would be really cool. I think that it would just sort of solve all the problems and all the
Yeah.
things that people are complaining
Yeah.
about, that
I
rightfully
completely
so.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because majors are certainly, obviously the title is one thing, but those events, the atmosphere is what separates them. And I was at USDGC last year, so I was watching Throw Pink. I was watching you play and all the FPO division, and you can just feel it in the air when you're there. Like you can feel how much more it means for that win and how much just more intense the competition is. So I agree. I think they just need to shift it over.
Hmm.
And then hopefully if they do, maybe they'll shift it over next year and they'll, change your
Yeah,
title to a major
they'll
title.
retroactively. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
that'd be great. But if they don't do that, you're still searching for that first major win. Worlds is quickly approaching. You've got a little bit of momentum now.
Mhm.
Do you think securing that major victory will kind of elevate you to a new level in your career and maybe place your name a little bit higher in the FPO history?
Probably. I mean, I think that anytime that you can secure a major victory, um, you're just sort of put into a different sort of bracket
Yeah.
with the other women who have that title. But it's interesting though because there are so many events, especially on the Pro Tour, that just feels so elite and
Hmm.
just like it doesn't feel that when I came in 10th at USWDC, it wasn't like I was like it didn't feel any real it didn't really feel different than when I came in 10th at whatever, Pro Tour event.
Yeah.
It sort of just felt like another event. And honestly, like winning Ledgestone, maybe because Worlds has been held there before, it sort of felt like, wow, this is like these are championship level courses, and I just
Yeah.
beat them, So,
Right.
um, yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's a weird thing even just like driving here to Des Moines, like it already felt like Ledgestone was just gone and done, and we're on to the
Right.
next one, like
Yeah.
no time to enjoy it. And so
Yeah.
everything's just so fast. And I think no matter what, if you can just continue to be at the top and secure wins no matter the tier, especially Elite Series wins, like you're already kind of cementing your name a little bit in history, especially with all the new eyes on the sport and all the people that
Hmm.
are getting into it. As long as you can stay towards the top, you're going to be okay as far as like who's going to know who you are and staying relevant and all of that. So, but yeah, obviously would love to be a major champion one day.
Yeah. So earlier this year, you took 16th at DDO and you're headed back to Emporia for Worlds.
Mhm.
Is that result impacting your confidence at all when approaching the event, or are you kind of, putting that behind you and feeling confident going into Worlds?
Yeah, well, I think I had mentioned this, on Instagram or something, but when I after that finish at DDO, um, I probably wouldn't have really even played DDO had Worlds not been um wasn't going to be there.
Okay.
Um, it's just I think especially with the way the Pro Tour sets up now, you kind of have the ability to pick and choose a little bit
Hmm.
what events you attend, and I think like two drop off of your points at the end anyway. Two of your worst finishes will drop anyway. So I the only reason why I say that, well, part of the reason why I say that is because there was really very little time to prepare for DDO. I think we were
Yeah.
just coming from, was it Jonesboro, or I don't remember exactly, but we were literally just like having to come straight after one event, traveling basically on Monday, and then
Yeah.
had 2 days to practice two courses. And one
Hmm.
course was, ECC was pretty much the same, a few, maybe one or two holes that were different. And then, Jones Supreme was completely different.
Yeah.
Even though we've played on that property before, it was completely different. So, having basically only one practice round at each course, my expectations weren't very high. And again, I did kind of use it more of a as a practice for World. So um, while not I'm not stoked on how I finished there, I think that if anything, it was a nice way for me to just get some practice rounds in, so that now when I go there next week, I'll be a little less stressed and trying to figure out the courses basically while I'm playing my competitive rounds, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
so I'm okay. I think
Well,
I'm fine. It'll all work out.
sounds good. Sounds good. So I had a question. If I bet heavily on you to win Worlds because, like, I think right now, like, I think you're kind of the sleeper pick. So if I bet heavily on you to win Worlds and you win, can I pick the pose that you do for the side of the PDGA website?
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Okay. All
Sure,
right.
Trevor.
I'm not sure what I won't sabotage you.
Don't
I won't
sabotage me.
sabotage you. No, I won't. I just think it'd be like the coolest thing ever for that to be up for a year and be like, I did suggest the post.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen,
You got
well,
that.
I'll throw a few ideas
You
at
got
you
that.
once you
Okay.
get the win.
All
So
right. Sounds good. I might have to
great.
find
All right.
some 40 feet of distance or something before I get there,
Yeah.
but
I didn't really think I was going to get this far with that. So all right, that's great. All right. Well, last question. So I like to do power rankings on this show,
okay.
kind of custom to my guests. And you're from New York originally, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I'd like to do power rankings with you. Let's do the top 3 New York foods. So the foods that New York does better than anybody else.
Okay. Well, that's going to be bagels.
Ooh, didn't expect that.
New York bagels are the best. I don't know,
Okay.
something in the water or something, but yeah, New York bagels and pizza, obviously.
Okay.
And then I would have to say just like overall like deli deli sandwiches.
Yeah.
It's weird because you don't just like it's hard to find some like really good delis anywhere, and I feel like there's one on every corner, no matter what town you live in or city. Like
Yeah.
there's a deli, and you go in, you can get a sandwich, you can get cold cuts, you can get whatever, and sausages and everything. So yeah, I think those are the top three.
All right. Well, sounds good. So there you go. If you ever go to New York, you've heard it now. Missy Gannon's top 3 New York foods. But anyways, Missy, thank you so much for joining the show. It was great having you on, and I'm betting heavily for Worlds.
All
So
right.
don't let me
Start
down.
thinking about that pose, I guess.
All right.
All right. Thanks
Yep.
so much.
All right, and thanks once again to Missy Gannon for joining the show. It was great hearing from her on the Ledgestone win and her expectations for the rest of the season. Going to be rooting for her at Worlds because if she wins, I guess I get to choose her page for the PDGA website, or her pose rather for the PDGA website. So that's pretty high pressure, I think. The ideas are already spinning through my head. But anyways, we're going to have another great guest next Thursday. We have a pretty unique guest next Thursday, so you're going to want to check that out. But we'll be back, so make sure you see it. And until next time, we'll see you then.